So as I was listening to the panel, which is just before me, and listening to some of the questions, the thing that came to my mind was an image of a bird sitting on the tree. And a bird sitting on a tree is never afraid of the branch breaking up, because its trust is not in the branch, it's in its own wings to fly off. And I think that's the message that I really want to belabor on, which is believe in yourself. Because you are the wind beneath those wings, which will make you, take the flight that you wish to take. So a little bit about myself. I don't want to, introduce myself as Citibank or RBS where I have worked, because I hope that, my achievements or my life is a little larger than just my professional career. So the way I like to introduce myself is I'm a mother of 2 children. One of 20, one is 15-year-olds. My 20-year-old is in the US, my 15-year-old is going through high school, God bless, because tomorrow or Monday is the maths exam and I am extremely ill-equipped to teach him maths. I'm a wife of an individual who has an equally stressful career as mine. And I think the trick to our marriage has been that over the 25 years that we've been married, we've kind of lived in different cities, we've had a remote marriage, we've brought up 2 kids through talking through Skype and technology, and we're yet married. That's a good thing. The third thing is I'm a daughter of 2 doctors, and when I was growing up, I belong to a middle class Indian family. I'm from Dehradun. Anyone has been to Dehradun or from Dehradun? Okay, good. I feel at home now. So 2 doctors who had 2 daughters, me being the older one, and my mother always aspired that one daughter should go into medicine. This was, I'm talking about early 80s, right? And me being the older one somehow felt obligated to fulfill those dreams and aspirations of my parents. So I took, like a good Indian child, I took sciences and maths till my 12th, and then I appeared for medical exam, not knowing anything more. कि अच्छा माँ बाप ने बोला है medicine कर लो तो कर लो, ठीक है. So appeared for the medical exam. Unfortunately for me, I made it, and I was sent off to a medical college in Lucknow, KJMC, which is where my mother is from, and therein started my medical degree. And a few months into that college, I knew it wasn't for me. Now that was my first tryst to restart my life again, or maybe destroy my life. Who knew at that point of time? I was all of 17. I had no idea. And I think, but every passing day in the medical school kind of, was not fitting in with me. And I was doing BDS, so more focused on dental. So I think Diwali chuttis in November, I came back home and I spoke to my parents, and this is not for me. And my mother was aghast, because trying to tell 2 doctors that this profession is not for me. They thought I'd completely lost it, or ya to padhai zyada tha, and bahut serious hai, and she's not being able to cope up. So I said, no, it's not about studies, I can work hard. But it's not really intuitively gelling with me. Clearly they did not understand that argument at all, and there were lots of tears and arguments. At 17 you can be really stubborn, you think you know it all, right? I have a 20-year-old, so I'm suffering right now. But I was like, this is not for me, I cannot do medicine, so this is it. And my mother tried to explain me that, how it's such a great profession, which it is. And I said, but one, I don't want to do it. Second, even if I pursue it and I pass, I'll be such a bad doctor anyway, nobody will come to me, so what's the point of doing it? So we went through this phase for a few weeks. Finally they gave up, because I can be quite stubborn. And my father said, okay, medicine nahi karna, to kya karna hai? So I said, I don't know. So by process of elimination, I knew what I didn't want to do, but at 17 or 18, I didn't know what I wanted to do, and which is a normal 17 or 18, confused, right? So the only condition which was given to me, jahan jana hai, hostel hona chahiye. I wanted to come to DU because that was the only next option I could see. I had to struggle my way through, and by hook or by crook, I managed to get a hostel in one of the colleges here. Thankfully, I had decent marks, and started with psychology, which was a third shocker for my parents, because they are pure sciences, and then psychology, they didn't know started with a P, leave alone what the subject did, right? So it was completely uncharted territories, and I think I got into the corporate sector a bit by luck, a bit by steer, and a bit by my own, education along the way. So there were 3 factors which kind of came along. And as I did psychology, I fell in love with the subject, I did really well, and I wanted to go to the US after my college. And I started applying to my unis, and my professor in college said, Naini, you've got a little more commercial bent of mind, so don't go and do psychology, try and do management. That time management was coming of age, so I applied for my CAT, got through some colleges. The only reason I chose HR is not necessarily because it's flexi, but because it's more connected to psychology in my head at that point of time. So I went to XLRI, I kind of did HR, and I joined Procter & Gamble after that. I found my to-be husband in XLRI, who was a year senior to me, and he was with Unilever. Now at that point of time, yeah, we knew there were competitor companies, but we didn't know how badly they used to compete with each other. So as we were in a serious relationship, we started having a bit of a warfare at home. Should we use Arial? Should we use Surf Excel? You know, Lux, or you know, should we use Came? And so for the sake of our marital bliss, we both decided one of us has to figure out what needs to be done. So we both started looking around for another job, and maybe because Sandeep is not here, I can say that safely, I was more employable. So I moved on to Citi, and he hung around with Unilever for a long time to come. And Citi was a long-term experience for me, but I think the things that I want to call out in the interest of time is, it was, you know, I believe that any woman goes through 3 phases, and I call it usually 3 M's, which is a phase of figuring out a relationship or marriage, and at that stage we figure out whether, you know, where my partner is, what I want to do, and how I want to make it work. There is sometimes pressure from the family for the woman to compromise on career. So when we got married, I had to join Citibank in Delhi, and Sandeep was in Pune or Bombay. And my mother, who anyway thought I had lost it when I was 17 or 18, said, "Zarurat kya hai tumko? Tum chhod ke dusri job dekho, go to Bombay." Okay, and she's a very nice lady. I mean, I have a really good relationship with my mother. So just in case any of you are imagining anything. And I said, "But why me? You know, I've just joined another job. He should come to Delhi." So my mother was like, she's a little more traditional. She's like, whatever. You know, it didn't gel with her. So for 1 or 2 years we stayed apart, and then I moved to Bombay with Citibank, and then I moved to Singapore after that, and we had, you know, Singapore, Bombay marriage. Then he moved to New York, so I joined him in New York, and we were there for 3-4 years till we came back to India. And then we moved to London in 2004. By then we had also had 2 children. And when we were moving to London, I was like, I don't want to go, because with 2 young children, which is the second M, which is maternity, how am I going to manage? So I said, "Tum jao, main yahi rehti hu. You know, I have mother-in-law, infrastructure. I'm not willing to give up my career. So you go, you come back and forth." As luck would have it, the only condition I had put ki domestically, if I can take my maid from here, I will go. And when you really wish for something, things happen. So she got a domestic worker visa, so we went to London. So clearly my maid was my motivation to go to London, not anything else, right? And your maid is very important at that stage in your life. More important than your husband, as most of you can empathize with me. So we moved to London, and there started a very interesting chapter in my life. I was heading HR for corporate and investment bank for Europe, and it was not about a woman, it was a brown woman in a white male dominated environment. Very different, you know, things to deal with. And for me, it was a business I went into before the financial crisis, and then I waded through the financial crisis. And as that work was happening, I loved my job there, huge development, huge opportunity. My husband decided to come back to India to do a CEO role for another company. Now at that point of time, you know, I'll be honest with you, even my bank said, maybe you should find another husband rather than trying to, you know, manage this third M, which is called mobility, right? I might have actually thought about it in retrospect, but I didn't, for the sake of my lovely children. But we actually, that was a very telling moment in my life, because I really wanted to do what I was doing in London, and he really wanted to do what he was doing in India. And it was no more so easy to work, because our children were 6 and 11, right? And I remember when Siri was talking to me about thinking about what I want to do, I was really confused. And I was having this conversation with my husband, who could see my trauma. He was going through the same bit and feeling very guilty that if he has to impose this, you know, I'll have to do something different. I was feeling guilty that if I hold him back, then he will let go of something which he really wants to do. So he looked at me and said, "Do you really want to do this?" And I said, "Yeah." So he said, "Chalo, we'll make it work." So for 2 years, he was in Delhi and I was in London. I had children with me for 1 year, and then we moved them to Delhi, and I was doing London, Delhi for 2 years. And it worked. But when you really want something really badly, you know what? The world around you makes it happen. My company stepped up, my family stepped up, even my mother stepped up to help me, and my mother-in-law became friends with me. So we had everything going. When I come back to India, I started doing the HR head role for City in India, and I remember having my interview with the CEO at that point of time. And I said, you know, great job, and we had a really happy conversation, and said, chalo, you get started next month. And I said, yeah, there's a small technical problem. The job is in Bombay, and my children have really settled in the school in Delhi. I'm not going to move them again. So he said, so what are you going to do? I said, I'll do Delhi, Bombay. So he said, now you've really lost it. You are doing Delhi, London, and you are doing, now you want to do Delhi, Bombay. I said, but I don't know what the problem is. I'm in the same time zone. So I don't even have to look at my watch saying, acha, phone kab karna hai, right? And calculate time frame. And he was really confused. And he said, I don't know how you're going to do it with 2 young kids. I was confused that why he was confused that why I couldn't do it. So we were at a bit of a stalemate about how we are going to make this happen. But as it so happened that I did that job for 5.5 years and he didn't fire me, so something really worked out. And then I decided to, you know, charter a different territory because I wanted to do something different. A global role came by with RBS and I took the punt. I went through a lot of emotional trauma leaving City and moving to RBS, but you know, when things have to happen, they have to happen, and new beginnings, new learnings, and new place. So the reason I went through a bit of a personal narration is there's a restart for each one of us at different stages of our life. It's through the 3 M's, and there is one M which is very important, which is the 4th M, which is motivation. Okay, what is your motivation to do it? My life, my work is a part of who I am. It's a part of my identity. It is not fully my identity. As I said, I wear multiple hats, but it's a strong part of who I am. I like the buzz of my workplace. I like the money that I get, which makes me feel much more independent. I'm not used to asking for help on that front, and this is who it's me. And so if I was to, you know, completely give it up, or then I would lose a part of me. So that kind of kept me going. And for me, it's about that conviction which each one of us has to harbor in our heart. So those of you who have taken a break, it's absolutely fine. Men do that as well, let me tell you. Today's millennials, most of the kids, whether it's man or woman, take breaks to go and do NGO work in different parts of the country, in different parts of emerging markets. Just taking a break is not a disqualification in itself. The question is, what do you want to do after that? And there's no right or wrong answer to these things. You can come back to the corporate world, you can go back to the social sector, you may make a completely different choice. Who are we to judge? So I don't judge, because my sister is a homemaker and she's absolutely okay with that choice. She took that choice very consciously and not under any pressure or stereotypical messaging which she might have got from other people. So I think it's that conviction, it's that motivation which really fuels the fire. Because when you are in the workplace, whether you're starting today, whether you started yesterday, the odds are the same. I think it's a bit like, oh, because you know, the panel, or because it's Anu who's been in the workplace for a long time, they have it easier. We don't. And I'll tell you what, when you are transcending a corporate world or a corporate journey, the more senior you will get, it also becomes gender agnostic. My husband is a CEO. He doesn't have it any easier because he's a man. And I'm a woman doing a global role. I don't have it any easier. And as you transcend in the job market, it's a happy war. I'm not saying in a bad way, but it's competition. And in those frames, if anything can be held against you, because it's competitive, it will be. So trying to, you know, look at the external world and saying, oh, why is this happening? You know, it's not going to change overnight. What can change is your outlook to it and how you deal with it. So I think let's focus on what we can control and how we can deal with it. And yes, there is a change which is coming, but that might be a little slower. So there are 3 things which I would recommend you look at. One is, what's your purpose, right? Somebody said, I'm retiring and I want to get back. Yeah, so what do you want to do? What's the purpose? There must be a purpose, because if you don't know where you're going, anything will take you there. It's not, there are a lot of times where a lot of women in my previous organization or current organization say, hey Anu, I want to do something different. So I'll say, okay, what do you want to do? I don't know, what do you think? That's not the right answer. You need to know what you want to do. I can help you and enable you to make it happen. But I can't give that answer for you, because what works for me may not work for you. So it is very important that answer has to be found by yourself. And I would strongly advocate, once you found that purpose, for example, yeah, I really like to do a P&L job because I like the fact that I'm multiplying shareholder value. Now, if that purpose comes along with another organization, it's a wonderful match, right? I want to be a change maker. I want to do transformation. I want to see how life works. Go. So, focus and purpose is extremely critical when you step out in the job market. What we tend to find is that's not very clear. So, when you go in front of an employer, if you're not clear about what you want, you know what, they're not going to get too excited about that. The second thing is impact and legacy. What is it that you're here to do? So, once you get a job, what is it that you want? If 2-3 years later you were to move on from this job, how do you want to be remembered as? It's not about just doing a job. I mean, I think the panel talked about there's a difference between job and a career. A job is, yeah, fine, I come and do 9 to 5 and I get some money and it's fine. Again, I'm saying it's a choice you're making. But job is different than a career. When you're talking about career, you're talking about short to mid-term impact. And how do I want to leave this workplace? So for me, for example, if I join RBS, I'm turning the brand around in different locations, saying in 24 months' time, we got to be in top 25 employer of choice. That's not going to happen easily. There are multiple things which have to go. There's a rally of teams I have to carry with me, in not just in HR, but across the business. So how's that going to happen? So defining your legacy and defining your impact is very important. And the third part is work on your confidence, right? It's a bit like L'Oreal ad, I'm worth it. Don't start with, I'm not worth it. When you step out there, your confidence has to be worn on your sleeve. You cannot look hesitant, you cannot look, oh, I don't know what's really going on here. You have to be confident about what you want, and that will come from the clarity of purpose, you know, the conviction and the courage in believing the impact that you want to make, which will build your confidence. But sometimes confidence is built by clarity, sometimes by simply reskilling yourself. If you're stepping out for after a long time in the job world, I think reskilling yourself, getting a hold of, you know, what the market is looking for, will instill that sense of confidence in you, and you will realize that when you're sitting in a job interview, that's very infectious in the way we look at the candidate. So I'm often on the other side of the table, and I'm looking at how much are you sure, how much are you self-aware, how much do you believe in yourself before I can believe in you, and are you willing to take a bet on yourself? So it's not about, you know, just floating your CVs. It's about having a strategy about yourself, because otherwise you're just, you know, going on the dartboard without really hitting the bullseye. So focus on that, build on your conviction. It will fuel that hunger, fuel that fire, and that will be very telling. We are not, I mean, if I look at the corporate world, you know, somebody talked about, I have a break on my CV and that could be a disqualifier. It's a disqualifier if you think it's a disqualifier. I don't think that. I'm on the other side of the table. I'm not looking at somebody. The only thing is you've got to be realistic about your expectation. If you've been out of the job world for about 10 years, then for you to expect to come at a senior level is also unreal. But so long as you're pragmatic and realistic, that you have the skill set and the competencies and you worked on yourself, you should be confident of getting the right job. So it isn't a disqualifier at all. Breaks in career are actually becoming a part of the gig economy, right? And also in the gig economy, you know, a person will be working in multiple places, which is already happening in different parts of whether it's digital or the tech world. So that's the norm. And from a corporate point of view, you know, the demand is far much more than the supply we have for the right skill set. So I think the trick is figure out what the corporates are looking for in terms of the skill set, and does that match with your interest. But don't start with this, I would say, this complex about I've taken a 2-year break, I've taken a 3-year break, and I've taken a step back. Step back mentally, because that starts to talk through your body language. So don't think about it like that. I've taken a break for a very legitimate reason. I want to come back. This is how I've skilled myself. This is the experience. This is the education. This is the exposure. Give yourself at least 6 to 8 months lead up time before you can land yourself something, and work on your own profile. And that's the important bit. So I just want to say, you know, dream on, because it's not about, you know, feeling about what you can or cannot achieve. It's about dreaming big, looking at the big picture about your career. And I just want to end with a small quote, and then I will open up with question. But I think dreams are big, and I think so long as we are dreaming, we have a chance of fulfilling that. But there's a very famous and a very favorite quote of mine from Albert Einstein, which says, "We dance for laughter, we dance for tears, we dance for madness, we dance for fears, we dance for hopes, and we dance for screams. We are the dancers, we create the dreams."
Hi Anu, my name is Khyati. I run an organization called Santulan Behavioral Sciences. So I'm not a returning mother, but the reason why I want to ask you this question is because your clarity of thought really, really resonated with me. I'm 8 months pregnant, and now I have to kind of inform clients that I'll be on a break. And somehow I have this very strong hesitation to let them know. And I just want to kind of subtly hide it, not talk about it, because I feel it'll be taken against me. So just wanted to understand from you, do you think it's common? Do you think others have also gone through it? And if yes, then what's the best way to project it? Or what's the best way to talk about it without coming across as somebody who's not taking her career seriously, like not being perceived as someone like that?
Okay. So there are two parts. One is maternity is not a break by any stretch of imagination. Those of you who have children, I think it's one of those times where as a mother I'm fully busy, if nothing else. So it's not a break, it's just that you are focusing your energy in another part of your life. I think when you're talking to clients, you just need to give them an alternate plan. So if I'm your client and you say, I'm going to have a baby, which is wonderful, what will be my concern? How will this continue without you being around? So long you have a robust pipeline of plans and people to hold fort whilst you're away, I'd be okay, right? I don't need anything more than that. That's all the assurance I'm looking for. In most organizations, what happens is we start to have these personal connects when people are delivering on a project or a goal, which is but natural. So have your second line who's ready to step up, take over, and the client should be happy. I don't think the clients would get overtly concerned. I would also get that interaction done quite quickly if you're going to be away, which looks like imminent. So I would kind of get that interaction done quite quickly so that the clients are comfortable. And that whilst you're away, nothing is going to drop over. But succession and planning for it is important to make sure the client comfort is there.
Thank you, Anu. That was very insightful. And I agree with the previous speaker that it was one of the most articulate rendition of your thoughts. I'm an ex-army officer, and my query was that post my 8 years tenure in the army, and then being married to an army officer, I've been moving stations every 2 years. Just to put a perspective, my daughter, when she was in class 9, it was a 10th school. So that would give a sense. So one did not have the flexibility as, moving from London to New York or Delhi to Bombay of connectivity. After I left the army and joined the corporate sector, I was heading HR for one of the oil and gas companies and trying to balance the upbringing of my 2 children. I did not even have internet connectivity in places like Panagarh and Tenga and other places which one wouldn't even have heard about. So now that I'm in Delhi, when I go back and the exposure that I've had in the field of HR has been, besides the armed forces, has been in the hospitality industry, healthcare industry, education, and all of that has been very short because I've been trying to make of whatever is the available opportunity in the station that wherever my husband was posted. Now that when I'm back in Delhi and I go back to the corporate world and have this conversation, often I'm told that, great, you've got a wonderful exposure, but you don't fit into any of those brackets which we're looking for. So while it was very heartening to see the leadership team out here have this conversation, one hasn't felt that on the ground. And just as I see Major Sonam walking in, I don't know whether she recalls, because I'm seeing her after 20 years. She was my cadet, and I was, in fact, the first lady officer to be handpicked to be at OTA, Officers Training Academy, Chennai, to be training. So, thanks for that. But the reason I'm asking this question is that one has felt it on the ground. And the picture that one got from the leadership team was a little different. I do not know whether there are more people like me out here in the audience, but I just wanted to highlight that and bring it
So
on the table.
if I'm getting the question right, it's about you moved around a lot, so you don't fit into one stereotypical role is the kind of feedback that you've been getting from the leadership team.
Yes.
Okay. So I think, you know, when I look at my corporate career, I think women play really straight. Either I fit in or I don't fit in. There's something called navigation in a corporate workplace, which is managing that organizational dynamics in straightforward politics. And I think you have to have sponsors and mentors across different parts of the corporate world who know you more than your movements and your profile. People take bets on people, corporates don't, right? People leave people, they don't leave organizations. So my question to you is, how many sponsors have you been able to create? How many mentors you've been able to create? I've just, you know, like in RBS, I've moved people around. I moved somebody from L&D into rewards. I moved somebody from UK into India, India to UK. People who never worked in different jobs. I'm not taking a bet on their experience, which helps me understand it's made them a certain kind of a person. But I'm taking a bet on that potential which this person has. But what you need to do is have a sponsor who's willing to take that bet. And that's all about connect and relationship. And you have to invest in that very early. Most of my sponsors have been men. I mean, I'm not here just by chance. But you know, I've had to work through those relationships, work through those navigations, and as you transcend your leadership journey, it only gets lonelier. So you have to constantly churn sponsors and mentors because they are the ones who will help you navigate forward.